of a big important thing, especially for female singers, is understanding registers and how to strengthen some registers and how to get from one register to the next. So, uh, vocal pedagogy was developed like kind of from the 15 through the 1800s before a lot was known about anatomy and, acoustics and things like that. So these labels that I'm going to use are not scientifically accurate, but they are still helpful because they were based on sensations, not based on like necessarily where sound was being produced. But the people who labeled these, like, they didn't really know what was going on because anatomy and stuff. So our voice is always produced here in our larynx, which is located right above the trachea. The air comes up, causes the vocal folds to vibrate, and the sound comes out of our mouths. That is always where the sound is produced. You'll see videos sometimes on YouTube that say, stop singing from your throat. And it's like, they're saying that for a good reason, but you can't really not sing from your throat. That's the only place you can't sing from. So when you sing low pitches, if you put your hands on your chest like this and you make a low sound, you can feel vibrations here in your chest. And that's because the sounds you're producing here in your larynx are creating sympathetic vibrations in your chest cavity. Because our voice needs these resonating chambers to change from the tiny buzzing sound you'd hear, like if your head was chopped off and your vocal folds were just vibrating in the air, it would sound kind of maybe like a kazoo. So it's the resonating chambers, which are created by vacuums in our bodies, that give our voice its final sound. So the chest voice is usually very strong and well developed in female singers compared to the head voice, because we typically all speak in our chest voices. So we're kind of developing and practicing our chest voice. And a lot of times female singers will be able to sing only like a small amount, because it's like once it gets high, they just can't figure out what to do to get up high. And maybe they can get up high, but then getting back down again is really hard and it feels unwieldy. So the chest voice is great for making low sounds, but not for making high sounds. So if you don't transition out of your chest voice or your low register and you try to sing high pitches from your low register, you'll get a shouty, strained sound like this. And like it kind of scratches my throat. Demonstrate that, right? Like it sounds like hitting the ceiling sort of thing, like something need, like switch gears or something like that. Head voice, you can, if you put your hands like kind of on the bridge of your nose and your forehead or in your cheeks, sometimes people call this your mask in voice lessons. This is much more subtle and difficult to feel, but you may feel some vibrations up here. Woo! Woo! Like when you're singing high pitches, because your voice, which is being produced in your larynx, will sympathetically vibrate in like your sinus cavities, etc., up in your face. So the Italians who are developing this vocal pedagogy would say head voice, chest voice. Head voice is great for singing high pitches, like I just did, woo, kind of like a high, light, free sound, but not so great for singing low pitches because the head voice sort of bottoms out and doesn't give any strength that we need for the low pitches. So, woo, woo, woo. Like if you try to sing low notes from the head voice, it's like, ugh. So the problem most singers, female singers, have, if they're past puberty at least, is the head voice is not well developed. So they'll have a strong chest voice like amazing grace, and then how sweet the sound. So it sounds almost like two different voices. And in some genres, people will kind of exploit that because they like the sound of it. So they'll have like a really strong, and you probably have heard that, they'll pop up to a high note and the high note will sound like a different voice almost. So that's great if you want to have, that's what yodeling is. So if you want to have that effect, that's fine. But in voice lessons, we usually will try to figure out how to strengthen the head voice, so the head voice and chest voice are equal in strength instead of heavy and really weak, which is going to be difficult to transition between anyways, right? And transitioning even when they are equal strength is still difficult. So we usually, with the vocal exercises, when you're beginning voice lessons, we'll be trying to strengthen the head voice so the head voice is just as strong as the chest voice. And then we have to figure out how to get from one register to the other and then back down again. That's the second challenge that we usually face. And we'll be working on both challenges concurrently because you already want to start learning to slide between registers smoothly. So the Siren is a great exercise for developing this. So you'll just breathe in make an U-shaped vowel in the front with a nice open throat in the back. And that will be your starting position. And we'll talk more about that too. There's a lot to think about. But we will slide from the lowest pitch in your register right above your vocal fry register, which sounds like this. So we don't want to go that low, but ooh, the lowest pitch you can get full pitch on. And then we'll slide all the way up to your highest pitch and then slide back down again. And so some things you want to avoid are having big bumps between your registers, which honestly I'm not great at demonstrating because I didn't have that big of a break in the beginning, so like I can't yodel. Some people, their vocal tract is just better suited to certain things than others, but I will try and show you. So like, ooh, did you hear that bump?
Okay.
Or ooh, where you kind of, so we want a smooth connection, which means we want to go slow so we can like just like smoothly transition. Ooh. I can really hear my break today, more than normal. I have this bruise on my neck. I think my baby might have like bruised my larynx because it kind of is sore.
I didn't hear
on the inside.
I didn't hear it.
Well, I did more than I normally do. I'm not sure. He like will crawl across my neck sometimes, and it does hurt. But I've never had a bruise from her before. But, anyways, so that is the Siren exercise. It's just new vowel, and you see you can modify the vowel to a taller vowel as you ascend because the higher pitches need more space. And so that's an exercise you would begin like this at your first voice lessons, and you will continue to practice the Siren for the duration of your singing career. Professional opera singers will do the Siren. It's an exercise that is beneficial from the beginning, and you continue to derive benefit and continue to try to improve the smoothness of your slide forever till you die, because it can always be better. And so it's tricky to master, and I'm just going to tell you a few things that I think of. Voice lessons is kind of this weird thing where we're just playing mind games with ourselves all the time, and your voice teacher's like kind of playing mind games with you to try to like get your mind to make your body make the vocal tract do what we want, because we can't necessarily control the vocal tract in the way we could like for piano, where I'm like, oh, curve your knuckles like this. Like, it doesn't work that way for voice. So I have to tell you all these things to think of in your head, and hopefully it has the right effect, and sometimes I have to try several different ones. But so I think of like, those stills where there's like water and oil and they're two different colors, and you like shake them and the colors like kind of combine, or you see like bubbles of the one, or like they'll swirl like this. I kind of am picturing something like that in my head, or like two different colors of mist maybe that you could like make a swirl like this. And so when I'm ascending from my chest voice, I'm thinking of trying to reach up into my head voice and pull down some of the lightness like as soon as possible. Like, so I'm like, as soon as I can start blending, I'm going to try to blend. This is like impossible to describe. So does that make any sense at all?
You're just trying to mix.
Yes,
like
we're trying to blend. Yeah.
At a point where it sounds
And
normal.
then same coming down, I'm like looking to like scoop up some of the darker strength of the chest voice as soon as possible. So there's sort of like a gradient of color of the steam or liquid going up instead of like a line. That's the thing we're trying to get rid of, is that hard line. So do you have any questions about any of that, or does that all make sense?
No, theoretically it makes sense.
Okay, great. Good job. Okay, so why don't you try now doing the Siren that I